gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. You know, today's show will be a real eye-opener to those who never ask questions about products that they're supposed to be using that are supposed to be safe. I want you to take a look at this.
Lawmakers are asking tough questions about the drug Accutane. It's a drug used to control acne among teens and adults. But some parents claim Accutane triggered fatal psychological side effects, causing at least 60 kids to kill themselves.
My son, Chris, 19 years old, was a healthy, into bodybuilding. He had so much going for him. Never, ever had a sign of depression in his life.
Her son committed suicide after just 6 weeks on the drug. Michigan Representative Bart Stupak has also been affected. His son killed himself after taking Accutane.
As a parent, I would have liked to have known the risk of depression, suicide ideation, and suicide before allowing my child to take the drug. As a legislator, I believe the public has a right to know of all the risks associated with prescription drugs.
Accutane's manufacturer, Roche Pharmaceuticals, maintains the drug has been safe since its debut in 1982. But activists insist there are deadly dangers and something has to be done about it.
Well, please welcome Lori and her daughters, Caitlin and Amanda, to the show. Why don't you tell us what happened to you, Amanda?
Okay, I began taking Accutane in 1997, which was my freshman year of high school. Yeah, I had what they call recalcitrant acne. No matter what I took, it wouldn't go away, and just small scarring. So Accutane is often thought of as the miracle acne drug, and when nothing else will work, your dermatologist will generally prescribe Accutane because it's almost surefire. I started high school off really excited. It was a lot of fun. I had a new boyfriend. I was in a lot of clubs. I went out with my friends a lot.
Straight A student.
Straight A student. It was a pretty normal beginning of high school, and I liked it. And then after I began taking Accutane in, I think, late September, things started to change. I became very, very irritable. I would cry for no reason. I became angry.
Stop there for a second. You noticed some changes in your sister, did you not?
Yeah.
Two of you used to be best friends, right? What did you start to notice in your sister?
We were really close before the Accutane, and I don't know, she was just really mean to me, and things just changed. We weren't as close anymore.
Mom, you started noticing some changes, right?
Well, we really didn't notice the changes per se. They seemed to be just normal teenage changes when she began the Accutane. We really noticed them, of course, after in November when she attempted suicide.
And let's go there. So initially it's just what you would call normal teenage mood swings.
We thought
That's
they
what
were.
you
They were
thought they
exaggerated, but yeah.
Meanwhile, while they're thinking you're having mood swings, you're having something else going on inside of your head.
At the time, I had no idea why I was acting like this. I would sleep all of the time.
The night that you made the first attempt at taking your life, what was going on?
Well, we were going to a gym meet for my sister the next day, and I hadn't taken a shower. Actually, I hadn't taken a shower in 2 days because I just didn't care. So my mom gets me up and says, we have to leave at 4 in the morning. You need to go ahead, take a shower tonight. It was a reasonable request, and I refused. I didn't want to take a shower. I wanted to sleep. I wanted to be alone. I just didn't want to do anything. And the argument escalated, and my mom said, that's it. You're taking a shower. Go. You have 15 minutes. Take your shower. Then you can go to sleep. And so I finally gave in, said, okay, I'll go take the shower. And then within the 15 or so minutes that I was in the bathtub, I decided that I just didn't really feel like doing this anymore. I didn't feel like
living anymore.
Yes. And I got out of the shower, walked in the kitchen. I was very calm. I didn't think twice about it. Once I had made the decision, I grabbed some pills out of the cabinet, and then I went in my room and I overdosed on about 40 pain medications.
Went to sleep?
Yes.
You woke up at 3 in the morning or 2 in the morning feeling what?
Pain, a lot of pain. I was having stomach cramps. I couldn't fall back asleep. I didn't know what to do. And then I got scared because I knew that if at 2 or 3 in the morning I was still awake, at 4 when we had to leave, I was still going to be awake, and I didn't know what the medication I'd taken would do to me if I lived. So My first reaction was to go to the bathroom and try to basically throw it up.
And you heard this.
That's right. We heard her in the bathroom. She was ill and she was crying.
And you went in and obviously took her straight to the hospital.
Right.
They realized there was something wrong. This was a suicide attempt.
Right.
And they placed you in psychiatric care, did they not?
Yes.
For 4 or 5 days.
Yes.
During that period of time, did they know that you were taking Accutane?
Yes.
And you asked the doctor, could this have caused this?
My husband, we walked into the emergency room, and of course they ask you what kind of medications you take, and the only thing she was taking was Accutane. And we asked him, I remember that, he asked him point blank, could it be the Accutane? And the response of the doctor was, well, no, that's an acne medication. I can't do that.
Can't do that. They ended up putting you on antidepressants.
Yes.
After coming out of this hospital, you started spiraling down even more, did you not?
Yes.
We have to say very clearly, allegedly, Accutane has had some sort of connection. That has not been proven yet. Take a break. We'll be back right after this. The level of acne that you had, was it worth everything you went through?
No. When people ask me about that, I always say, well, I would have been a really pretty corpse.
He left a note. The note said, if you're reading this, that means they killed me. I don't want to die. This isn't a suicide. I love you all. Please don't forget me. Love, Adam.
Do you want your mate to take a test to prove that he or she didn't betray you? If so, call us at 1-800-MONTEL-2. That's 1-800-MONTEL-2.
So here's your daughter in psychiatric care, in a facility, being treated by psychologists who, at the end of the 5-day period of time, couldn't give you any answers, could they?
That's right. They just thought she was depressed, teenage kind of thing. And she continued under the treatment of a psychiatrist and a therapist. She saw both for the next several months.
And during that period of time, no one ever stopped to think about Accutane?
No.
You stopped eating?
Yes.
Well, I should say you were eating, but you were doing something else along with it, were you not?
I was severely anorexic and bulimic throughout December, January, and February.
Mom, you must be going crazy.
We were frantic.
Caitlin, you don't want to talk to her anymore, right? She's done.
She had gotten aggressive, actually. We had to watch her with Caitlin and our 4-year-old at that time.
Really?
She would actually, I found out later she had hit Caitlin.
What finally made you think it's time to see if we need to take her off of these meds?
We didn't. What happened was, a friend of mine happened to see it on TV that the FDA in 1998 released the warning that it could cause suicide. She called me at 6:30 in the morning. I'm watching Amanda take her Accutane, and I said, oh my God, and I threw the pills in the garbage can because Amanda was afraid that she would break out. So she wanted to, and she said, it wasn't the Accutane, Mom, it's me. And I said, I don't care what it is, I got rid of those pills. And 4 days later, Amanda started eating. And she ate a banana split, as a matter of fact.
And then you started to see things completely change.
2.5 weeks after we stopped the medication, after I did, we brought her back to the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist told me, she said, she came out and after speaking with the man, and she said, was your daughter like this before Accutane? And I said, well, no, actually she was better, but she's a lot better than she was. She said, because I think I met your daughter for the first time tonight. And she said, and I can understand why you and your husband were so upset and so frantic if this is the child that you had before she took this drug. And this is what I'm saying now. She said, because this is a very nice young lady.
You have testified before Congress, is that correct?
Yes.
And what, you told them what?
I told them my story. I told them what I'd been like before Accutane, what I was like on Accutane, and then how I've been since Accutane. And then I told them that I'd like to see more research done by the pharmaceutical company, by the government, by the FDA, more research done by someone on this medication and its effects on teenagers, adults.
Let's back up and ask this question. Was it worth it, though?
No. When people ask me about that, I always say, well, I would have been a really pretty corpse.
We'll take a little break. We'll be back right after this. The last
some of his friends left about 7 o'clock, and they thought everything was fine. And he went upstairs and got the gun.
She eats one piece of candy, and what happened?
She basically took one bite and then realized she was in trouble, and as she came out of the bathroom, she collapsed.
To Montel because they thought they would pass a lie detector test and prove their commitment to the one they love.
You don't trust him at all, do you?
No. He's always accusing me of running around.
I've never done nothing wrong.
How do I
Never.
Are they telling the truth? See the reactions for yourself. How can I ever trust you? Ooh, on the next Montel.
Please welcome from Michigan, Congressman Bart Stupak and his wife, Mayor Lori Stupak. Welcome to the show. We'll come back to Mayor and Congressman a little later on. I would love to know how that happened. But let's talk about what we're here to talk about. What happened with your son?
Well, BJ was on Accutane for approximately 5 months.
So he started on Accutane, and he obviously saw some very quick results, right?
Oh, yes, he saw results with it right away. Also, his older brother had taken Accutane, and he did have more severe acne than BJ did. But Ken really only had the basic side effects.
And those basic side effects are what?
Dry skin, dry lips, bloody nose.
Which happens every now and then, infrequently.
Right. Sure.
Okay, so BJ's on it, he's taking it. Did you start to notice any behavioral changes? Or
Not behavioral
like
changes, but when BJ went back for blood work, his triglyceride level was sky high.
Okay.
And the dermatologist noticed that, and I said, you know, what does that mean? And he said, well, it's one of the side effects of the Accutane.
And make sure he takes it with food. Take his pill with food.
Okay.
And we'll continue to monitor that.
So he continued to take it?
Yes.
Now, and up until the night of the party, you saw nothing behaviorally, nothing that indicated that there was, maybe he was depressed, maybe he was a little off, a little...
No, nothing to give us any indication that he was going through depression.
Okay.
I think he had been a little stressed. He was very active in school. He was treasurer of the student council, had just been elected president of the student council for the next year. He was very active in sports.
And 2 weeks before the incident, he talked to people about things that were coming up in the future.
Oh yeah, definitely.
This night, I guess, was this a graduation party? What kind of party
was it? It was a prom party.
Prom party. Decided to have a prom party at your house.
Yes.
Very responsible and laid down the letter of the law.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There would be no drugs, no alcohol, no nothing. You could have a party at the house.
Right. His older brother was there with some of his buddies. But we had approved the guest list, said absolutely, you know, no drugs, no alcohol. They were going to sit in the hot tub, watch movies, play video games.
Okay, so party's going on. The two of you exited, stayed
Yeah, yeah.
let them have the house, which is good. Okay, so you were out. You gave them phone numbers to call, police, your number?
Yep.
9 o'clock in the morning? What time in the morning?
9 o'clock in the morning.
9 o'clock in the morning, a call comes to you, and they said what?
The phone rang. I answered the phone, and it was one of Ken's buddies said, Mrs. Stupak, you've got to come home. You've got to come right away. Something's happened to BJ. And I said, what? And he said, we don't know. Something's happened to BJ. Come right away.
So that ride back home, what are you thinking?
Well, when we got the message, my pit of my stomach knew something serious was wrong. Just sort of started to shake. Threw ourselves together, went right home. It's only 3-4 minutes from where we were to our house. And all the police cars and ambulances there, we knew it was significant.
We could hear the sirens.
Okay.
Actually followed an ambulance into our driveway.
You walked in and you found out that your son BJ had done what?
Shot himself.
And, okay, let's talk about that just for a second. The gun was a gun that you used for home protection. It was in the home,
Yes.
unloaded.
Unloaded in a case in a nightstand.
In a nightstand. So he went through the process of getting the gun, loading that gun.
One bullet.
One bullet. And made the decision that night to do this.
That
morning.
Right.
Some of his friends had talked about his behavior being a little odd at the party. What did they say?
About 3:30, got a little loud, but he went and got his brother's Bible and was quoting some scripture out of the Bible to him.
Which is uncharacteristic.
Yes.
A religious kid, but doesn't go around quoting Bible, especially at a party with all your friends and they sort of teased him a little bit about being the preacher man, and you know, everything was fine. When they left, the last of his friends left about 7 o'clock, and they thought everything was fine. He told them we'd see him later that night because they were playing basketball that night. And of course, wrestling's on Sunday night, so they were going to be a few minutes late for wrestling because he was going to play basketball, and everything was fine. And he went upstairs and got the gun.
You honestly, believe that it was Accutane that caused this to happen?
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely.
If we have the heat of the U.S. Congress and a mayor, why can't we get somebody at the FDA to say it's time to test this drug? Let's take it off the market until we find out whether or not it's killing people. But Roche's statement on Accutane. Roche takes these individuals' cases such as what you are representing or presenting on the show very seriously. And we continue to investigate the issue of the link between Accutane and depression or suicide. To date, we have found no scientific data or proof of cause and effect relationship, but we continue to investigate this issue.
Back in 1985 was the first links of Accutane affecting the central nervous system. And some warnings came out in 85. All the information up until recently, until 2000, after we went public and others, was only given to the healthcare professionals who failed to see a link between an acne medicine and the psychological or psychiatric effect it's having on young people. We know there's a cause there. The best evidence we have to date is young people who were on Accutane, who became depressed or attempted suicide, taken off Accutane, put back on Accutane. The ideas of suicide, taking their life, and depression came back. It's called challenge and de-challenge. That's the strongest evidence we have to date. We have not had the independent studies, something we've called for when we went public back in October of 2000 when we made the link, if you will. So there's a lot of work being done on it. I am still hoping that the Commerce Committee, the Oversight Investigation Committee, will have hearings yet this year. I've been pushing for over a year, and we continue to work on it. The other thing I want you to understand, when they do all these articles about Accutane and it's only 92 deaths or 147, wherever it might be, understand what that number represents. Understand. Any deaths or any adverse event related to Accutane is a voluntary reporting system. It really is probably only 1% of the true number out there. 1% of the true number.
So the truth of the matter is there could be larger numbers of suicide that no one would be willing to admit.
Oh, you're pushing the thousands now.
Let me take a little break. We'll be back right after this. Dr. Gilbert Ross to the show. Welcome in. Dr. Ross, we've been having this conversation about Accutane. What do you think about this?
Well, there's a lot of ground to cover based upon what I've been listening to. We could talk about Accutane and we could talk about the general approach to prescription drugs. Accutane is generally a very safe and very effective drug, and it's not a life-saving drug, so any loss of life from it would be a terrible tragedy. Of course, their individual story is a terrible tragedy, but I wonder how many kids' lives have been saved by taking Accutane because of the increase in self-esteem that derives from it, because of the benefit that derives from cystic acne. Of course, it should only be prescribed, as you pointed out, to...
Well, right now, Doc, we know that what's going on... I know this for a fact. I can tell you this unequivocally without any word from any of the guests sitting on that stage. I have teenage children. I know what's going on in schools. And I'm here to tell you that when you put together a group of very attractive girls, I'll guarantee you in high schools these days, probably 7 out of 8 or 9 of them are taking it. Or somebody's gone and given it to them. So that means that it's not being prescribed correctly.
That's the problem with the physicians.
Okay, but then...
Not the problem with the drug. You see, any drug can be a killer if it's used incorrectly.
Yes, sir, but if I can't
instance,
control physicians to prescribe the drug correctly, therefore, we don't know what Pandora's box we might be opening up.
Well, you could say that about any drug. Again, I have to repeat that. Penicillin has probably killed more people than any other drug you're going to discuss here today. Does that mean we should ban penicillin?
Well, you know, what it does mean is that if right now we have not done the test to prove, we've done tests knowing that there are people who have adverse reactions to and allergic reactions to penicillin. My mother had allergic reaction to it, used to carry a little wristband, so no one could ever give it to her. But right now, we don't know if Accutane is There are certain people who are allergic to it. We don't know if it has an effect on individuals.
We know that a lot of drugs can cause allergic reactions and other side effects. Indeed, 40,000 or more people every year die in this country from the correct, approved use of prescription drugs. Does that mean we should withdraw all drugs from the market?
No, but what it should mean, if we know that we have a drug right now...
40,000 people every year die on highways from motor vehicle accidents. Should we ban driving?
Yeah, but Doc, wait, well, you can go down that argument all you want. But if I'm a father of a person who just died because a child went into severe depression after taking a drug, and we can prove that that drug put that child in severe depression.
I wouldn't blame you for being on this show and advocating the withdrawal of that drug, but I don't think that scientists and physicians should be swayed by that. I took Accutane, by the way, back in 1982 when it first came out. I wasn't a kid at that time, as you could probably tell. But I was in the clinical practice of medicine, and I had cystic acne that had been ongoing since I was a teenager, and it worked quite nicely for me, and I'm glad I took it, and I wish I'd had the chance to take it as an adolescent. There have been kids that have gotten depressed and indeed have committed suicide, but the studies have not shown that there's been any increased incidence compared to the general population.
Doc, let's go back to 1966, 1967. I'll show you studies that said cigarettes don't cause cancer. I'll show you, right?
Those studies were sponsored and underwritten by the tobacco industry, I'll bet. The studies that I read were done by independent investigators, although some of the sponsoring might have been done by Roche, yes.
Yeah.
And besides, that applies to a large population. There may indeed be people that will have a depressive reaction to Accutane. That has to be monitored carefully, and it has to be discussed with the patient and the patient's parents, if they're a minor, by the physician.
But, sir, you know what? Until something like this happens, no one even knows that there's a problem.
Accutane now has, I believe, a black box warning, and to say that it should have been put on before, I think that's a valid point, but now every physician has a responsibility to discuss that possible side effect with every patient.
Of depression and suicide?
Yes.
Okay.
Not true. It's a voluntary form. One of the things we asked for on a consent form, because of the pregnancy and the birth defects associated with this drug, that the new consent forms had to be given to every patient, male or female. They are not giving them. The doctors are not giving them to the people. It's not required. The FDA says we cannot tell a doctor how to practice law, therefore we cannot mandate, the FDA cannot mandate that the form be given to the people,
Well,
which is
the
informed
FDA can
consent.
mandate a lot of things. They can mandate that doctors have to make sure that their female patients aren't pregnant and don't become pregnant when they're taking that drug, because we do know the risk of birth defects. Why shouldn't they be allowed to require doctors to have that same warning?
But that's the question. Let me take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Are you and your mate on the verge of breaking up because you think he or she did something to betray you? If so, call us at 1-800-MONTEL-2. That's 1-800-MONTEL-2. If you are in the New York area and would like to be a part of our studio audience, please call 212-989-8101 or email us at tickets@montelshow.com. Please be sure to include your phone number. Closed captioning provided by...
These babies were conceived using the Clear Plan Easy Fertility Monitor. It identifies more fertile days each cycle than any leading method. Clear Plan, clear results.
Promotional consideration provided by the following.
For what I spent on designer boots, I could have bought this sofa from Jennifer Leather. Call 1-800-JENNIFER.
Try Nads.
It works. Imagine a fast, easy, no-heat, all-natural hair removal gel.
Try Nads.
Now available at Walgreens nationwide.
My next guest had no idea that their son was abusing an over-the-counter drug. Now, we've heard, and I've done on this show, I don't know, at least 300 shows on different drugs that have been abused by kids and different products that are being abused. And I hate talking about certain things because I don't want to give someone else the impression that they can go out and get a quick buzz off of something, but I need parents to be aware that there's something over-the-counter that kids are starting to abuse again. It's been abused before, it's starting again. Take a look at this.
Kids today are finding alternatives to illegal drugs. They're experimenting with over-the-counter drugs. They believe that if they're legal and you can buy them in a drugstore, they must be safe. What they fail to realize is that anything taken in large quantities can be fatal. Back in December of 2000 in Vancouver, Washington, 13-year-old Adam Doris was discovered in a closet with 16 empty Coricidin caplets scattered around him. Here's what a local news report had to say.
Reading from a letter written by 13-year-old Adam Doris, Patrick Estrada says a Coricidin overdose killed his stepson.
I don't want to die. It wasn't suicide. I hope I live, but I love all of you. Never forget me. Love, Adam.
Police say Coricidin, Sudafed, or any other type of cold medication will do. To get high, kids take anywhere from 8 to 16 tablets. If Adam's note is any indication, he may have understood the danger of what he was doing.
If Adam's death can save one child, I just want parents to be aware. It's out there.
Now, please welcome Patrick and his wife Carmen to the show. What happened to your son?
He was experimenting with drugs, and the new thing in the area where we live in Vancouver was the Coricidin, and he thought he would be okay just taking him experimenting to get high, and went to bed. Apparently had taken them. I didn't know he had them on him, and the next morning I went to wake him up for school, and he was dead.
You later found out from, I think, a friend or someone else had said that he had intended to give some of that to his younger brother.
They're actually the same age. It's his stepbrother.
His stepbrother.
Yeah, his sister told me after it happened that he had a 16-pack and he intended to give our other son, Bobby, 8 of them. And she told him that if he did, that she'd kill him because Bobby hadn't taken them, didn't know about her, hadn't taken them, as far as we know. And when the police found his body, they found the empty 16-pack.
They think that it was a suicide.
Right.
No.
That's what
it says on his death certificate.
He left a note. The note said, if you're reading this, that means they killed me. I don't want to die. This isn't a suicide. I love you all. Please don't forget me. Love, Adam.
So he realized he had taken too much somewhere.
Apparently.
At that point. Again, now what do we do about something like this, Congress? How can we expect our children to not go to a drugstore and buy something that has been advertised as being safe? And heck, Johnny told me last week when he took a little bit for his cold, he had a little buzz. Guess I'll take a few of those too, because I think I might be having a cold. Next thing you know, we're up to 8, 10, 12. All the kids in school are taking them. It's just like what's going on right now. Some kids are going to school and grinding up their little brothers and sisters Ritalin and giving it to friends. How do we go after this? This is impossible.
The only way you can go at it is shows like yours and others to inform parents and inform young people. As the note said, he left. He didn't want to die. He didn't know what the effect was going to be on him.
He was 13 years old.
Why was it on his packet? Too many of these could lead to serious medical problems, death, suicide. I mean, Accutane, there's nothing on there until recently, even though they've known about it for years. You know, the best we can do is empower our children and ourselves with all the information available. And the frustrating part when you do Accutane or whatever, you go to the doctor and they don't tell you all the risk involved, whether you take too many or whatever the risk may be. I believe the consumer always have the right to know and should know everything about a drug before you take it. If you take a cold medicine, you don't think it's going to, or an acne medicine, you don't think it's going to lead to your death. Right. And there's just no connection there, no logical connection.
Well, you know, I think maybe what we need to do, and I'm glad that we're doing this to let parents know, if you were to walk in your child's room and you find medication which is over the counter, I don't even care if it's just like throat lozenges. You find multiple heavy packs of those around your child, and you didn't buy them for your child, there's no reason for your child to be taking them without your permission. Yes, sir.
What about these so-called dietary or nutritional supplements?
Absolutely. No matter what it is. The signal that's sent out all day long, 24 hours a day, on the television, on the radio, is no matter what's wrong, I got something for you to put in your mouth to solve it. If you're tired, I got 55 different kinds of energy drinks you can take. And when you take them, hey, do a little vodka, you'll feel a little bit better.
Well, in the drug companies, they spend twice as much as they do twice as much on advertising than they do on research and development. It's always the argument that you can't put any kind of price control or any kind of a control on pharmaceutical companies because they spend so much money for research and development. All the hearings, investigations we've shown to date on the Hatch-Waxman and other pieces of legislation shows they spend twice as much on advertising to get you hooked or your kids hooked than they do on actual research and development of a drug.
We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Whether you live in the New York area or are planning on visiting the New York area, we would love to have you as a part of our studio audience. Please contact us at Tickets, The Montel Williams Show, 433 West 53rd Street, New York, New York, 10019. Or call 212-989-8101 or email us at tickets@montelshow.com. Please be sure to include your phone number.